From the heart of Houston, it's fun, it's engaging, it's Chattin' with Chelsea. She's daytime's new bestie. Here's your host, Chelsea Edwards. Come back to me.
Hey, besties! Thank you for joining me for another Chattin' with Chelsea. I'm your daytime bestie, Chelsea Edwards. See, we're just swimming around there. We are swimming along, doing our thing, and we are doing our best. And we want to make sure you're doing your best, especially when it comes to your money. So that is what we're getting into today. We're going to talk about your credit score. I know, it's a lot, but we are going to give you the things that you need to know, and plus tell you why it's important to keep it up, even if you're not trying to make a huge purchase right now. We also have a very special guest in the studio. She is on tour, making a stop right here at Chattin' with Chelsea. She is on a mission to make sure all that financial literacy and knowing about your credit score and all that it starts much younger. So our kids aren't dealing with some of the issues and the hard lessons that we had to learn growing up, right? Can't wait to talk to her. I gotta say, I did grow up knowing about my credit score, and this mostly came from my dad. He was always talking about how it would shape my life. This was mostly while he was complaining about what his credit score was not doing, but the lesson did come through. So as I got older, once I finally got, some credit, I did work at it, make sure it was good, keep it up. And it takes a lot of work. You have to make sure you pay those bills on time. You have to make sure you don't have too many accounts opening at the same time, but you still have to have accounts open, all that. But why is it after you do all that hard work, get that score up there and you're so proud, there's this urge to just ruin it, right? It's like you all of a sudden have all this power. Like nobody can tell you no. You can buy all the things and it makes you want to buy them, but you got to fight that urge, okay? Like it's a tough thing. It's like getting a job that you don't have the skills for, but the first day you're just like, hey, point me to your most complicated technology and I'll start there. Thank you for trusting me. All right. So a lot of responsibility when it comes to your credit score. We want to make sure you keep that up. And when it comes to that, Bonnie has a good explanation for how credit scores work.
Okay, so I may or may not have had a few drinks before I came up with this, but I came up with a way to financial responsibility. It's called a credit score, and it goes from 0 to 850.
Okay, I'll bite. Why 850?
850 because my birthday is August 50th. Anyway, it rates your ability to pay off debts, and then banks and lenders can use your credit score to determine your eligibility for loans and credit cards. Okay, and the assumption then, I guess, is that if someone's so financially responsible that they have zero debts, then they have, what, a perfect 850 score? Well, no. See, it's about paying off debts, so if you have none, your score would, of course, be 0. What? I think I see the vision. So if you have a debt and you pay it off completely, your credit score goes up to 850, right? No. Actually, then you don't have a debt to pay off anymore, so your score would again go down. You're right, of course. Okay, I'll play along. How do you get a good credit score? I'm glad you asked. You take out a loan or a credit card. Okay, but didn't you say that you need a good credit score to open a credit card or take out a loan? Yeah, what are you getting at? Yeah, what kind of question is that? Go on. What else? Well, it's also used when you apply for an apartment to prove that you can make monthly payments. Oh, okay, so paying rent can also increase your credit score. No, are you even listening? Yeah, where'd you get your brain, the dumb store? What are you guys talking about? This is clearly such a flawed system. It's like if you don't crawl out of the womb with a perfect credit score, it's excessively difficult to do anything. Oh, so you do understand. You're just plain dumb. Why on earth would you do this to people? Because we hate them. Yeah, because they're stinky and poor. Oh, why didn't you say so? Okay, yeah, let's do it.
Because they're stinky and poor. That's what it feels like, right? But we're going to prove them wrong, all right? We won't be poor after this episode. I want to welcome my first guest, Blonka Mack, activist, author, moving around the country, really trying to promote financial literacy in underserved communities and try to bridge that gap for so many of our youth. All right, so let's start with the Blonka movement you're the founder of. Explain what that is.
So the Blanca movement started off by feeding and clothing the homeless, doing something such as a kind act like that, and we started putting together really large events and became known in New Orleans for doing that. And I just had the urge to want to teach because I wanted to get more young scholars educated so they can figure out how they can give back to their own community and shape the community and then branch out. So eventually we started touring, going to different schools, public and private. Then we started noticing the big disadvantage there is with breaking generational curses and the school system not teaching or talking about credit or legacy And these conversations normally should start at age 5 and 6. If you look at different cultures, they start really early. So it's about information now and being a part of the solution and not being a spectator on the sidelines.
Wow, 5 or 6. That's
Yes.
a big ask right there for a lot of parents. What do you think is the biggest misconception when it comes to starting that education early?
So some people think that you have to have private education, and really and truly, we just need to make the standard more normalized information, because when you send these scholars off and they're graduating with their diploma, it doesn't equate to much, because depending on where they go to school says a lot about what they learn and who they'll become in their trajectory. So if the state is setting the bar really low, not making money management and financial literacy a requirement to graduate, then it's a domino effect of how people make mistakes early on. And I had to learn personally through trial and error. It wasn't talked about in my household. I didn't want to be a stereotype. I actually wanted to just teach. I knew something in life. I just wanted to help and teach.
What was the biggest lesson you had to learn that you helped pass on to these students?
So in general, it comes from like humble beginnings, just staying very humble and using my platform to give back, to be a role model. So within this tour, we have the ability to sponsor scholars and sponsor their LLCs and turn their lives around and make them owners. And that's how we teach off the 444 album. We just make it very fun, very relatable, which makes us very in demand too.
Yeah, all right, you talk about Jay-Z album. We are going to get into that, the other work you're doing, and also some tips for parents who want to start that financial literacy early. Okay,
Yes,
guys,
most
you do
definitely.
not want to miss this show. We'll be back after this break. Welcome back. We got Blonka Mack in the building telling us all about her world tour to help change some lives through financial literacy. Tell us about that.
Yes, so I love touring. It's been a joy with my team and the continuance of it, meeting scholars from around the world, teaching them, educating them, sponsoring them, building these connections that we would have never done if this tour never started, and the level of impact that the tour represents, especially coming from African-American culture, to be spearheading such a world tour geared around education is very eye-opening of the need. And it took one person to do it, then a full force, and now the organization, and we are meeting scholars from around the world. It's very beautiful.
What is something that students learn first through these connections?
So the great thing we do workshops. When we partner with schools, we reach out to them and do workshops, and the students get to learn how to get 6-figure lines of credit from the bank, how to leverage their credit. A fun exercise we utilize is Substance and Vibes, where the scholars get to connect with us and tell us their favorite music artists and why, because we want to know why. So they get to pick 2 artists and they put them in the category of Substance and Vibes. And by the time we go around the room, we know they're listening to a bunch of vibes.
Yes.
And it just gets us more conscious about, okay, let's diversify our portfolio of music, because music does have impact. And as an activist, I see it so often where they'll listen to a lot of artists, and the artist formula itself is not great. A lot of them are not giving back, and they're not really highlighting education. So that's why I thought it was very refreshing when Jay-Z came out with the 444 album, because he was talking on subjects that we really need to highlight and create healthy dialogue around credit, stocks and bonds. These scholars are learning how to get 6-figure lines of credit. Then if they're thriving really well in the process and experience, we'll find out who wants to be owners, and we'll sponsor their LLCs and get the ball rolling for them.
I love it. And then you tying it into hip hop, so it's
They love it.
picking that interest up.
Yeah.
Okay, so as you do this tour, what are some experiences that you've seen with the scholars, as you call them? Is there a light bulb moment where they're saying, hey, this is really important and I need to pay attention?
Yes, so when we do our Q&A, we trying to meet them where they are. We're not trying to change them, just add more in their toolkit. So we ask them, well, hey, what do you want to become when you grow up or when you leave school? And a lot of them know and some of them don't. So we help them discover their purpose, and then we put marketing and a business plan around it. And then once they realize the level of information and how much money they can make by starting with credit and how you can leverage your credit and the importance of it, how to get a home, how to get that nice car they see in a video. You know, Instagram is a facade. It's a fake reality where the scholars are really believing, and it has a really deep impression. They believe what they see they can instantly become a boss, and it just doesn't work like that. I'm like, you're gonna have some sleepless nights. You gotta put in some work, discipline. So we go ahead and shape them into well-rounded citizens and productive scholars, and it starts also with this book you see before you, Book of Keys, just getting them on a right regimen. So in order to teach, you have to figure out who they are, what they like, get to know them on a first name basis, and then help them start planning out their business plan.
So you mentioned parents should start as young as 5.
Yes.
Where should they start at that young of an age?
With just general conversation. I have a son, his name is Elon King, he's 5, and when I'm at home just messing with my phone, he's like, Mommy, you're on the news. That's Blanca movement. That's Book of Keys. So the fact that he can recite these things, he can retain it, just how he sees cartoon characters. All of these things are synchronicity, and all of these things are programming. So when you allow your kids to watch YouTube, all of these things, they're learning from other people's household in a split second. That's how fast information is. So if they can retain that at 5, and sometimes sooner than that, then you can start them off by saying, well, hey, baby, you want to learn something new today? You want to learn about credit? And they'll say, well, what is credit? And then you go ahead and give them little bitty examples. And then when you're out, they'll start utilizing that. We can't hold their hand forever, but we have to give them the tools even if we didn't have it. I always tell parents, research, provide them information, and provide them and lead them down a pathway to people that are doing what they want to do.
When it comes to parents with older kids who, may be watching this and say, hey, I didn't do all those things when they were younger, where do I start now? What do you tell them?
So depending on the need of what they want for their kid, it's just about bonding and just getting to know what do they like. A lot of parents, they're in the hustle and bustle mentality of the, inflation, all of these things. The average parent is fighting to pay bills, with the economy being the way it is. So sometimes they miss the connection point of when the child comes from the school bus and comes inside, the how was your day, the simple things. It's not that they don't want to, it's that the world is so demanding, bills are so high, you're kind of maxed out. I've met scholars that say they have part-time jobs just to help mom and dad out. So that tells you where the state of the economy is. So it's just about bonding over simple things.
So that through that bonding, you can start implementing those financial lessons.
Yes.
What is the biggest financial lesson you learned growing up?
Just thinking about where do I want to be and what do I want to have, what do I want to achieve. And then when I started to think about, okay, I want to drive this car or live in this home, and understanding you needed credit to do all those things, it was easy to say, okay, you have a bunch of money, but you need both of them. They both go hand in hand, because a person who has money has to show proof of earnings, and a person who has credit has to show how they can maintain the credit. Some people assume that when you have credit, that's it, but there are stages and degrees to it, and just keeps going. When my son becomes of a particular age, I can add him as an authorized user to my account, which will start his credit history. So
what's that age?
It depends on the credit card company. Some people may say 18, 16, 10. It just depends. By the time they go to apply for their first credit card, their chances are better, because they'll see, okay, you have had credit since X, Y, and Z, by just piggybacking off mom and dad credit. Another tip is start giving them the good understanding that they can buy a home and be homeowners. All it takes is 2 years of taxes or 2 years of W-2s for the most part, and that's how you create generational wealth, just small things like that.
Yes, that is wealth, and it's one of those things where it's like, why didn't I know this when I was younger? But those are great tips on giving our kids a head start. That's going to help so many people. Thank you so much, Blanca, and congrats on getting the key to the city of New Orleans. I might need to borrow it from time to time. I have a little fun out there. All right, guys, we'll see you after this commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk more about credit and making sure that your credit worthiness is up to par. Welcome back. So does your credit score matter even if you're not making a big purchase? Well, my guest here says yes, indeed. Welcome back, Cheri Green, Chase Bank Community Manager. So you are, you've really been helping a lot of people get their credit together, get those accounts where they need to be. Why does it matter, even if we're not planning on buying a house or a car?
So I always think of it this way. Your credit is your credibility.
So it kind of walks in the room before you do.
Oh, okay.
So when I think about credit, I think about my ability to buy something now, but pay for it over time. So that's a good key.
Yeah, it'll help us in a lot of other ways.
Absolutely.
Okay, so how do we get it up if it's not where we need it to be?
The first step that I find people miss is that they don't even know what their credit is. So if you don't know what your credit score is, you don't know what's on that credit report, I suggest you go. There's 3 national bureaus, Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. They receive information that's being reported by lenders.
Okay.
And so understanding what's being reported is important because you want to make sure, one, that information is accurate and the information that's being reported is to your advantage and not to your detriment. Go on there, take a deep dive, and if you don't know what you're looking at, do some research first. Like there's a lot of tools and information that's out there to help you understand what you're looking at.
What's the lowest score?
Not
yours, but just the lowest it could go.
Mine ain't low.
Because I know some people may say, hey, my score is low, but is it the lowest?
I have seen the lowest be 350.
Okay.
That's fairly low. That means you're not being financially responsible. We're going to be gentle to our besties. We're not being financially responsible, but you can go all the way up to 850.
Okay.
And so I always tell people, if you're looking for a place between 350 and 850 where you need to be, 700 plus is where you should start.
That's the goal. And it is possible even if you are at their 350.
Yeah.
It'll take some time, right?
That's a big one that I wanted to talk about today because a lot of people assume that they get to 350 and are like, oh, my credit's going to be bad forever, and they give up.
Yeah.
The number one thing you can do to positively impact your credit is pay your bills on time. It seems simple, but that does make up 40% of your credit score.
Okay.
If you are simply just saying, hey, look, I'm going to take all my bills and I'm going to pay them on time, you will start to see positive progress.
What if people don't have credit?
That's the key. You have to establish credit. Lenders are looking for your ability to pay them back. And the only way they can determine that is if you have credit.
Yeah, okay.
So even if it's, hey, I'm using my credit card a few times a month and I'm paying that money back, that's a way for the bank to see, hey, you have the ability to give me my money back, essentially.
Are there starter cards or accounts that they should start with? Maybe, because they don't have that credit history. So how do they build the credit history?
A lot of people start off building credit 2 ways. One, student loans.
Okay.
The second one is credit cards. So there's options out there, just type in Google credit card options and you could see all the different solutions that you have based on where you are.
All right. Yeah. So when it comes to getting that credit card, or maybe you have multiple accounts, does it matter if you have balances on all of those cards?
So rule of thumb, stay under 30%.
Okay, 30%
utilization.
With all of the accounts total?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Now, if you have a credit card right now that has a credit limit of $1,000, you need to stay under $300.
Okay.
And if you are over the $300 threshold, that may negatively impact your credit.
Okay, so just because they said you can spend $1,000 does not mean you need to spend $1,000. Keep it low. How long does it usually take to see an improvement when you do these things, like lower that balance? Will we see that jump in a month or so?
You'll see it jump over a course of a few months. I think the biggest changes you'll see in your credit is when you bring those payments down. Bring the balances down on your credit cards. You'll see a change in your credit if you applied for a significant number of loans in a short period of time. I'll give an example. When I bought my house, I got into a car accident.
Oh.
A few weeks before I closed. So obviously you can't buy a car when you're buying a house. Yeah. So I had to wait until closing. Well, I bought a house and a car on the same day, and you can hear my friends now, oh my God, Cheri's balling. I'm like, this is not me balling. I literally didn't have a vehicle for weeks. But I saw the inquiries that were popping up between the car, the house. I bought furniture. I was spending a lot of money during that time. It negatively impacted my credit, but not for a long time.
Wow, okay.
So anytime you are, applying for loans, you are putting balances on credit cards,
you're accumulating, some debt, you're going to see some changes in your credit. So just be mindful of, it's gonna fluctuate, and you kind of just have to ride the wave a little bit, but stay consistent with paying those bills on time, making sure you have credit established. And one other thing I want to tell you guys is, I've had my first credit card. I have that same credit card today, and I got it 20 years ago.
Oh, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you close it today, do you know what would happen?
It's going to shorten the amount, the credit history that you have.
It eliminates it, essentially.
Yeah.
So you want to hold on to those cards.
Okay.
Hold on to those accounts as long as possible.
Okay.
You don't necessarily have to use it.
Yeah.
Just hold on to it, though.
Okay, good point there. All right, so we've been talking about the importance of credit, even if you're not making a big purchase. We're seeing employers use credit now. How much of a factor is that when you're trying to get a job?
So think of it this way. When we are utilizing credit, we're telling a story to a lender, right? Hey, I'm trustworthy. I'm going to pay you your money back. And although you're not necessarily paying your employer back, it does tell a story if you're financially stable, if you make good decisions. So your employers are looking for, is this someone that we can trust with, secrets or whatever it is that you're doing. They're looking to see if you are managing your finances well on the personal side. Just be mindful that your credit is your credibility, and it definitely does step ahead of you whenever you're making decisions.
All right, they want to see that you're responsible before you get that job.
Yeah,
okay?
exactly.
Right.
We got you in the bag dealing with money, and you don't know how to manage your own.
Yes.
Just be careful, you know?
That's right. All right. Well, thanks for coming down from your job to fill us in, give us some great advice. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too.
Yes. Okay, guys, coming up after this commercial break, we'll have a final takeaway. For joining me for another Chatting with Chelsea. I know you learned so much, so we're going to have this episode online for you. In the meantime, keep up with us on social media at Chelsea Show Fox. We can't wait to see you next time on the next Chatting with Chelsea.